So there I was. It's about, 16, 17, 18 years ago now. And I'm out playing lots of mini tour events, and I'm hoping I can get some sponsors or scrape together enough money to get into the PGA qualifying school, get out on tour, make my dreams come true, make lots of money, get on TV, get all the chicks. You know the story. And I was getting pretty good. I was practicing really hard. I figured my handicap was somewhere around a +4 or even maybe a little better than that. The problem is that my standard deviation between my scores was way too big. This looks great on a handicap card when you only have to count 8 out of every 20 rounds, but go try to do that playing for money, playing for a living, and you'll see that you're gonna go broke very fast. So my standard deviations of my scores, I could shoot 66, but then I'd go out and shoot 78 or 80 the next day. So of course you throw out the 78 with your handicap card, but you also throw away all the money that you would have won if you had a couple 66s. That would have been a lot better, because my standard deviation of my shots was too large. I was missing something. I was missing a really critical piece of having a swing. The power was there, more power than I would ever need, but the consistency in controlling the blade was not there. And once I learned this one lesson that we're going to talk about right after this, is when I really started getting consistent with the control of my shots, where I didn't have to look for the ball anymore. I was always started hitting it straight all the time, every day, day after day, which is something that you'd love to do too, so keep watching. Hey, this is Steve with HitItLonger.com. I continue my journey to hit the ball longer and straighter than I ever have before. I hope to show you how to do it too. All right, so if you've been following my channel for any time at all, you know that one of my mentors was the legendary teacher and long drive specialist, Mike Austin. I remember seeing his name for the first time when I opened up a Golf Digest to the top 100 instructors list. And there he was here, even back then. This is back in the 90s. Back then you had Ledbetter and Harmon and people like that. Jim McLean. There's 1, 2, and 3 almost every year back then. Here's a guy named Mike Austin, number 4, number 5. And by gosh, he's got the same area code as me. I gave him a call. The study of Mike Austin's swing for me, we're going to go over a couple clips, was really an aha moment. Of course, I was using his swing, so I thought, but once I went back, of course, after I failed, I think you learn the most when you retire. You've accepted failure, and you start having some patience again. You go back and review everything slowly and carefully, methodically, and I discovered something amazing about his swing. I thought it was true, and then I went back and I had to actually measure. So went back through all the old footage again, what we're talking about, and I discovered this looking at this early 1950s slow-mo shot where he's hitting a drive off the first tee at Annandale Country Club, which is in the LA area. And I'm like, gosh, he keeps his butt line, I think, pretty even throughout the swing. He doesn't have it leak forward at all. And sure enough, I had to go back and I had to, the camera angle may not have been perfect, but I actually drew a line. I held up a piece of paper or something the first time. And by God, as you can see on the screen here, his rump line as he goes through the impact zone just simply never leaves the initial line that he sets it up on. It's really uncanny. And then studied a few other swings, and I noticed that a lot of the golfers that I grew up loving and made it into the Hall of Fame, they might have even increased the depth. So I'm talking about like a Hogan or a Trevino. Certainly Snead might have done it too. All the really great ball strikers that ended up winning tons of tournaments and being in the Hall of Fame, they either keep their butt on that line or they actually broke through it and increased it as they pivoted through. They actually pushed a little bit backwards and broke through the line. So if you had something like a Chinese screen or something like that, and you would actually puncture it and break right through the paper on your way down into the ball. So I went back to kind of what his real pride and joy was, his collection called Austinology. It's about a 7-8 hour collection of everything that he ever taught. He tried to put everything, all his secrets together in this 4-tape collection where he did with Mike Dunaway. And there's a really interesting section we're going to show here where he's teaching Mike Dunaway how to precisely make a solid and powerful pivot. Let's take a look.
We're going to show a number of exercises this morning to enable us to get in the proper position to hit this golf ball. The first one we call the wall drill. Now he will incline from the ball and socket joints until his buttocks are against the wall. Now so many people try to turn the right hip back into that wall. It's wrong. First movement is a lateral flexion of your spine from the bottom, like a pendulum. The weight on the bottom of a pendulum working that way. The second movement is an anterior rotation of the left buttocks, pulling it off the wall. Your left thigh is doing an adduction here. The left knee is doing a flexion, and the left heel is raising. That frees up the left side so it can turn. Now when you come back to the other side, you got to move the left hip against the wall, and this is turning out so it can revolve between the ball and your spine.
You never try to turn the left hip.
If you do that, you negate all the power of the legs and body. Now there. You understand that I'm not just standing here with my hips between the heels. I'm moving now where I'm balanced on the right leg. So I have a support underneath the spine, but the spine is tilting like a swinging action of a pendulum that way. Now this left side is turning out around the right. The left hip leaves, and the buttocks of left hip leaves that, and it comes in, causing a shortening of this hip joint, the knee joint, and the lifting of that left heel allows the knees to spread more.
So if I tried to spin my hip out of the way,
then your head moves.
So really, I'm just moving right with the wall.
Yeah, but you're moving what we call the support. Now your right leg is support, and your left leg is a rotator, okay? And then the left leg is support, and your right leg is a rotator, which takes the right side through.
Okay.
Now, can we take it from the side, seeing this separation from the wall of this buttocks? Now, this wall, this thing gonna sit here, go back to where it started, and this is turning around like that.
So the right side works to it,
yeah,
as opposed to back shifting. Like
right.
And the wall, well, what a drill.
Yeah. That way. Now see this? This heel is raising, this knee is flexing. When you do that, watch this. The femoris flexor is working right here, causing this knee to bend. The rectus femoris is working here, comes in here like that and lifts this thigh outward. The gastrocs and soleus muscles down here are allowing that heel to raise. Okay?
It's like a loose feeling.
Yeah, you have to have that detached so this thing can swing, okay? Now, when you go back down, now you're setting the heel back down with the tertius and peroneus. You're lifting this gastroc and soleus. You set it back down with these two muscles come in here. Now, as you come back this way, this muscle is flexing. This muscle is flexing. The internal vastus is pulling the leg in there. Then the sartorius muscle is turning. The longest muscle comes from right here, goes down here and connects on the other side of the joint, on the inside like that. Those are a number of the muscles in play to do this exercise. Now, if we're going to swing your arms back, it's going to help the shoulders turn, and the left shoulder is pulling away from that spine, giving us a separation of this left arm from 6 o'clock down here. 12 is up there, but the left arm will go back to 11. It's 12, 11, 10, 9. So that's it, and the hands will be cocked 90 degrees. The arm is separated from the ball. 150 gives you a total of 240 degrees separation of that club head from that ball. Now, when you move, you're moving laterally. You're using the femoris flexor muscle here, rectus femoris here. The sartorius coming from right here around to the front like that, which turns that leg. Internal vastus there. The gastroc and soleus lift the heel. Freeze this up. So you have a supporting side and a rotating side. You cannot turn the right hip past this wall it's blocking, but you can turn the hip away from the wall, letting the body do an anterior rotation around toward the ball. While that's happening, the femoris flexor is flexing the knee. The gastroc is raising the heel. The internal vastus is pulling this thing in here, and this sartorius muscle coming here, going right, they're turning it out. Now that's position, your shoulders will be like this. Okay? Now to come out of that, the leg is like a extension of your spine. Now you got some support. Now you don't have support if you pull the hip back. Okay? Now there. Now you're going to revolve. You can't revolve if you're attached. You have to detach the heel. Free up the knee and this hip is coming here, which gives you a compound action, a shift of weight.
Well, as if you try to get your left hip out of the way, your shoulders
You cannot
fall
do it.
off.
Your head's going to move. You wobble. You got to keep here and move the center of gravity out to the front. Keep your swing circle center on the center line. Okay, see, swing circle center is the base of the neck, top of the rib cage. It's called the 7th cervical. You have 7 vertebrae from the skull down to here. And the operation of that action right here allows the shoulder, the hip, the knee to rotate between the spine and the ball.
Okay.
Now, we're going to look at it from right side, looking this way so you can see the motion through the hitting area on the foreswing. We got the motion on the backswing. Now, go back to the top of the backswing. All right? Now, yeah. Now, as you come down, this hip is going to return to the wall, but it's moving forward. That's coming under. Now, at this point, the hands will come on over. Okay? Okay.
This makes you work to the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way to...
You're not working away from it, you're working into it. Both ways. Okay?
Okay.
That, if you'll take a swing out here now, step away from the wall and make a swing and do the full action so you can see how it's using the legs to support the body. Okay.
So isn't that neat? That's one thing that Mike taught Mike Dunaway, actually did himself throughout the prime of his career. And so this is where I came up with the idea of having a chair with the right height to just touch the tail. And as he showed Mike Dunaway, the right butt cheek will maintain the depth through the backswing as the left hip is going to orbit down and around the posting right hip like this. So see, I'm still on here, but my left butt cheek has come off the wall. It's not, remember, it's not going to circle around the right posted hip like a merry-go-round. It's orbiting down and around, almost on the same plane as you're trying to make the club shaft and the club head travel in. It makes it a lot easier when you get the hips rotating more like that. Then, of course, on the downswing, as they talked about, you're returning the left butt cheek back to the wall. And now you're going to post the left hip and have the right hip orbit down and around the posted left. That gives you a maintained tush line, rear line. A lot of people who were very successful in the Hall of Fame actually would lift the chair and increase the depth of the butt. You can see what that's doing here is increasing the amount of hip flexion that I have going through the ball, and the effect that's generally going to have, it's going to help you shallow your swing and downswing and shallow your hand path. The problem that a lot of golfers out there have when they lose this line, even just a little bit, even, you can get away with a couple of inches. You could still be a scratch golfer. You can go out, you can even have a Hall of Fame career. There's certainly players in the Hall of Fame who come off at a little bit. But if you're somebody who's coming off at 4, 5, 6 inches, this much, thereby losing your hip flexion, well, you're also going to lose necessarily your swing plane. It's going to force you to get vertical more, steeper, possibly go out to in. For some golfers who are like single digits, when they make a pivot like this, they'll drop way under the plane and swing overly into out and have a big problem blocking and hooking it, the big two-way miss. All stemming back to the way that we're going to use the hips and keep the butt line maintained or even increased. Now, what is this going to give us besides helping us to shallow out the plane and the hand path? Of course, we just need the proper amount of shallowing. I'm not an advocate that we should be doing crazy gyrations to try to shallow the shaft. That is a fashion that will soon go away because it's just kind of a craze. It's not solid golf. It's not the white t-shirt and blue jeans of golf swing fashion, you could say. But what you also get, you will tend to get more ground force when you keep the rump back. As opposed to doing this, you're actually going to be raising your center of mass a bit too soon, and the weight is going to go more into your instep, which really can't provide quite as much application of ground forces when you're stepping down into your heel. So here I'm getting low, I'm kind of crashing down, letting my center of gravity drop a little bit, and then I'll push off of that late as the club comes on its last little bit of the journey into the ball. It's going to give us a little bit more power. Secondly, I didn't have a problem with power, but I certainly had a big issue with direction, especially missing the ball well off to the right. The big push block that I used to hit and get in trouble with. As I lost this a little bit, my pelvis is now occupying the correct hand path space. I can't swing the hand path around the arc. Not only would it make it steeper, but it doesn't allow me to exit back around and low and left again to match what I'm doing halfway down. It's not congruent halfway back, halfway through, and it would cause me to hit a lot of shots with the shaft a little tall and ahead as I came into it. So of course I'm going to go right until I learn and figure out how I'm going to flip it. So essentially what I was doing was I was doing as much face flipping. I'd also subconsciously over the years, my grip got stronger and stronger. My club face got more closed throughout the swing, all in an effort to battle and negate the tendency to come in this way so that I could square it up better. Of course, really hard to time when you're doing all this stuff. It's really balanced precariously, like trying to juggle 5 bowling pins while on a unicycle. It looks great when you can pull it off and it's very pretty, but what happens when it all falls apart? They can fall apart very badly. So you can see when I can keep this space clear, I can bring the handle right on around, and that's going to help this club face track much more square to the arc this way. Not only did my path get straighter when it was maybe too far into out, too far rightwards, but my club face was coming in so square 8 inches from the ball that now I didn't have to manipulate with my forearms at all in order to square it at the last instant. Now I actually, and everything changed again. My whole world changed when I discovered this in that one video of Mike Austin at Annandale. I'm just pouring through it over and over. I'm looking for whatever secret I'm missing. How did Mike, by all accounts, and not just watching him on video, but I've interviewed at least a dozen people who played with Mike occasionally to regularly that just said he just hit the ball really straight all day, every day. Occasionally he hit a lousy one, but generally he was straighter than anybody. And so I find this missing piece, and I hope you will too see the value in this in terms of creating power, effortless power, like Mike did, and also creating such a beautiful swing plane that you can send the club through this way, more square to square, where there's less club face rotation. All I have to do is throw the club this way with my right hand, just like that. And you notice if we're working on this plane, look at the toe of that club just staying on top of the shaft vertical. That club face doesn't rotate at all, just like that. So that's how all I have to do is work my wrist and forearm. It makes it so much of a simpler motion to repeat and easier to time when I can do this. So started doing this. It took me a long time practicing on and off, but it took me a while to groove it to where I could swing a driver at 120 miles an hour and not leave the chair. But this is where it all started. Just like that is learning how to post up that left butt cheek and hip, sliding down the wall, lifting the chair up, and it really makes your torso go around. But what we really like is the reduction in club face rotation. So I want you to film yourself, but make sure when you film yourself or you have someone kind of watch you swing, they can hold up a stick vertically like this, and they can close one eye and they can see what your tail is doing relative to some object in the distance, like a yardage sign or a tree. If you film yourself, you got to line up the camera on the tailbone line rather than between your feet and your golf ball. Be able to kind of do a little analysis on what you're doing here. It's extremely common for golfers to do this. It's holding you back. Certainly held me back. It really kept me from ever achieving all of my dreams to make it on tour, because I just simply couldn't be consistent enough delivering the club face square to the ball. Not enough fairways, not enough greens on a bad day. As good as anybody on a good day, but when you really want to get good and consistent, which is usually the number one complaint that golfers who come to me for personal or in-person lessons, they say, I just want to be more consistent. Well, we got to get the club face behaving more. Often leads us to this lesson. So watch those videos again of Mike Austin performing the pivot, teaching Mike Dunaway on the concrete wall how to construct the pivot. Start constructing your pivot tomorrow as part of your effort this year to get better. I'm gonna go back and hit some more, review on the chair, make sure that I'm still doing this properly, because it's so much fun to hit the ball straight now, day after day, and know what I can count on it. I'm Steve. Thanks so much for watching. As usual, I'll either see you in the next video or I'll see you longer and straighter down the fairway. Everybody take good care.